Hello, and welcome to the MoneyMax Account presentation presented by Take Action Partners. My name is Dr. Joan Haakonstad, and I'm going to be your presenter tonight. Just a little bit about myself. I am a field partner with United Financial Freedom. I've been on the system since 2007, and so far my team has helped eliminate over $26 million in debt, or at least helped accelerate the pay down of over $26 million in debt. Very excited to have you on the call today and happy to be discussing the biggest problem facing America right now, which is debt. So before we get into really our system, I want to talk about debt in general. The Social Security Administration years ago did a study where they tracked over 100 people over the course of 40 years. And what they discovered was very sobering. First, at the end of 40 years of work, 54 people were broke. They were dependent on Social Security, relatives, friends, and charities just to make it through the month. 36, unfortunately, were dead. They had died before even completing the 40 years of work. They didn't even get to enjoy the fruit of their labor. 5 needed to continue to work. 4 were financially secure. And only one out of 100 people was wealthy. So what does that tell us? Well, the sobering reality, for every 100 people out there, after 40 years of working, only 5% will financially succeed. What a sobering reality. 95% of people will end up, unfortunately, deceased or dead broke. And it comes down to what we have as an American way of life. The reality is we have very little, if no, financial education in school. And yet finances are the foundation of every household. I remember being in school, in high school specifically, and being taught how to write a check. Yet I wasn't taught how to make sure I had money in the account to pay for what I just wrote the check for. I also remember running home saying, Mom, guess what? I just figured out, or was just taught how to write a check. Could I have a check? I'm going to go buy something. My mom's like, yeah, Joni, no, that's not quite how that works, but good try. So finances are the foundation of every household, and yet we teach nothing about it in school. It's the number one stressor in families. It's the number one cause of divorce. And it just breaks the American person. And the sad reality is debt is at an all-time high. Our national debt is over $28 trillion. Our consumer debt is over $14 trillion. So consumer debt consists of mortgages, credit cards, student loans, auto loans, all those types of consumer loans. We're truly at an all-time high. And part of that is because the American way of life is that we buy things we don't need with money we don't have to impress people we don't know. And the result? Debt. Well, if you're watching this webinar and are like most people, you probably want to get out of debt. Well, you're not alone. The vast majority of Americans are drowning in debt, and yet they don't do anything about it because they don't know where to start. It's overwhelming. But you're doing something about it, so congratulations. Debt is big business. And the less we know about how to manage debt, the more profit big institutions make off of us. Although debt helps us pay for things we want when we don't have the money for it, debt also costs us our future if we don't understand the difference between good debt and bad debt, or if we don't know how to pay off that debt, kind of a critical piece. So it seems like no matter what you do, you can't make any real progress on your debt. Well, unfortunately, it's set up that way on purpose. Even marketing has adjusted to accommodate us being in debt. They no longer advertise how much something costs. Rather, they talk about how much is the minimum payment. And of course, they're anticipating you will only make those monthly payments, the minimum payments, and they're going to make even more money off of you. Now, if you're like me, you really do hate debt. And I know for me, I did a lot of research to figure out how to pay off debt. In fact, I remember graduating college and I had a whole whopping $10,000 worth of credit card debt. Now, today I look back and I think, oh my goodness gracious, that was nothing. But back then, I felt like I was drowning in debt, just absolutely drowning in it. It was just overwhelming. I just graduated college. I didn't feel like I could even buy my first home because I had so much debt in my mind. So I did a lot of research, and of course I found 3 specific ways that traditional banking teaches us to pay off debt. Number 1, consolidate your debt for a lower monthly payment. Well, that's fantastic, but that doesn't actually really get rid of your debt. In fact, it starts the amortization schedule all over again, and we'll talk about that again in just a few minutes. A lot of people also refinance to get a lower interest rate. Well, that's fantastic too. However, when you refinance to get that lower interest rate, number 1, you're starting the amortization schedule all over again. And number 2, most people continue to make the minimum payment. So that refinance didn't really help you pay off debt any sooner. So these first 2 options up here actually don't help you pay off debt quicker. In fact, I believe traditional banking teaches us to do that because they view us as walking, talking dollar signs. And we truly are. Because both of those first 2 options just create more money for those big institutions. Now, the third option up there, the biweekly payment plan, that actually does work. And it's a great concept. In fact, I did it with my first home and several other homes as well. Biweekly payment is where you have a payment for your mortgage and you cut it in half and you send half a check every 2 weeks. That ultimately ends up that you're sending an additional payment every year. So the common misperception, though, is that the biweekly payment plan will actually cut your term of your loan in half. So people think that they're going to pay that 30-year mortgage off in 15 years. And unfortunately, that's not true. In fact, mathematically, that is an impossibility. That cannot happen. The average biweekly payment plan cuts a 30-year mortgage down to 24 years. So it actually only shaves off about 6 years. Now, again, that 6 years of payments you don't have to make anymore. That's fantastic. I'll take it over the full term. But it's not where I wanted to be either. So I then looked at some financial gurus. And if you've ever looked up financial gurus, you're going to find that they all have competing views on how to pay down debt. But isn't debt a mathematical equation? So I was a little bit confused as to why one person says, okay, reduce your standard of living, go eat those ramen noodles, don't enjoy your life, don't do anything. It doesn't matter that you just worked your tail off to get to this position. Stop enjoying life and send every extra payment that you possibly can over to the debt with the lowest balance. Now, another financial guru says, well, that's just plain silly. Why would you target the debt with the lowest interest rate? You should actually, or the lowest balance. You should actually target the debt with the highest interest rate. Once you get it paid off, then you're going to roll it over to the next one and do a debt roll down or a snowball effect. Now, these strategies do work. There's no magic to paying down debt. You have to send extra money. The key is to make sure that you are targeting the right debt at the right time with the right amount of money, because the wrong decision will cost you time and money. The reality is these financial gurus do create a system to help you pay down debt faster, but they have to create a one-size-fits-all approach to debt. And I have to tell you, my debt's completely different than your debt, which is completely different than your neighbor's debt, which is completely different from everybody else's financial situation. I don't wear a one-size-fits-all shirt. Why would I do this with the most important thing in my household, my finances? And I'm happy to say that's what ultimately brought me to the MoneyMax Account system. In fact, my financial planner introduced me to this system. At the time I was married, my husband and I had a mortgage, and we were shown that we were going to have our 29-year mortgage paid off in only 9.1 years. We were saving over $327,000 of interest and almost 20 years of payments. No refinancing, no change to our standard of living, and no change to our budget. Happy to say these are also not biweekly payments. It's not a debt roll down, and it's certainly not a concept or a theory. So if that's what it's not, what is it? Well, the MoneyMax Account program is a web-based financial GPS, which provides a roadmap to pay down your debts in the fastest way possible given your unique financial situation. It looks at your money coming in, your money going out, and it looks at the variables associated with your debt, and it mathematically finds that fastest way for you to pay off your debt. It's an individualized plan for your unique situation, for your current and for your future debt. And so far in our 15-year history, we've helped to accelerate the pay down of over $2 billion in principal. Guys, it's just magic. I'm sorry, it's not magic. It's just math. Now, it's extremely advanced math, don't get me wrong, but math is a science. So let's talk about some of the math behind it. And first, we're going to do so by looking at an amortization schedule. Now, a lot of people have actually never looked at an amortization schedule. I know I tried to avoid it. I remember going in and purchasing my first home in my 20s, and I saw this page that was just overwhelmed with numbers. I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't want to see this anymore. So I kind of put my elbow over that place and just kind of scribbled my name at the bottom. It was overwhelming. So let's look at an amortization schedule so we don't get overwhelmed the next time we look at one. So we're going to start with a mortgage. $300,000 balance, 4% interest rate makes the payments for a 30-year term at $1,432.25. Now for the next few slides, I'm actually going to drop the 25 cents just for ease, but it is included in all of these numbers. I'm just not going to mention the 25 cents just to make it a little bit simple. So this is an amortization schedule for the first 15 years of that $300,000 mortgage. Now, this is just based on an annualized basis. As you can see, year one right here, total amount that we have paid thus far of principal and interest is $17,187. That's a lot of money, right? And when I see that, I'm thinking, woohoo, I am making progress on my mortgage. Well, then I look at how much of that payment actually went to interest and how much of it went to principal. And I hate to tell you, of that $17,000 payment, $11,900 went to interest. The majority of it didn't even touch my principal. In fact, 69% of my payment serviced interest. That's pure profit to the bank. If that doesn't make you mad, I don't know what will. Wasn't this a stated 4% interest rate? Well, don't worry. As you go along, that's going to decrease. By year 5, it's only decreased down to 63.94% of your payment has serviced interest and not even touched your principal. Woohoo, you're on a roll. Yay. Year 10, you're at 55% of your payment is serviced interest and only 45% has serviced principal. Year 15, you're halfway through your loan, and yet still 46% of your payment goes to interest and not principal. Again, wasn't this a 4% interest rate? I'm happy to say that we've created a better way. But let's look at this a little bit closer. So I mentioned before, $300,000 mortgage, 4% interest rate over a 30-year term. That makes the payment $1,432.25. Can't forget that 25 cents. Now, how is that broken down? Remember that 69% of your payment went to interest? Well, this is going to make you sick. Look at this. Your first payment in this situation, only $432 went to principal. The rest, $1,000, went to interest. That was 70% of your payment servicing interest. That's pure profit to the banks. Do you see how our loans are so front-end loaded with interest? Don't worry, month number 2, we've decreased how much went to interest by a whole whopping $2. Woo woo, we are so on a roll, yeah. Year 1, guess what? We've now paid $17,187 and only $5,200 of it went to principal. Year 5, guess what, guys? Year 5, we have paid $85,000 into our mortgage, and only $28,000 of it went to principal. The rest, $57,000, pure interest. Interest, that's pure profit to that bank. Now, what happens at year 5? Well, a lot of people refinance or they move, and they start this whole amortization schedule over again. Year 10, 171 grand paid in, only 63 grand paid to principal. Year 19 and 3 months. Why do you think I have that on there? Well, a lot of people believe that 15 years is your halfway mark of your mortgage. Well, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but in this situation, $300,000, only a 4% interest rate. You're 19 months or 19 years and 3 months. You've paid $330,000. How much was that original loan again? Oh yeah, 300 grand. But you've paid $330,000 so far, and your principal is only down to $150,000. Now, as you can see, you do have significantly more money going to principal than interest, but gee whiz, only $150 grand of that $330,000 that you've paid has gone to principal. That's it. The rest of it, $180 grand, pure profit to the bank. Year 30, you have now paid $515,000 for that 30-year mortgage for only a $300,000 principal balance. So therefore, you've paid a total of 72% of that principal in the form of interest. That's $215,000 in interest. Isn't that crazy? Absolutely crazy. So how do you jump ahead? Well, let's say that you just got this new mortgage, that new 300 grand mortgage, and it's at that 4% interest rate, and it's for 30 years. Again, payment, $1,432.25. Can't forget that 25 cents. So how do you jump ahead? Well, what if? Remember how I said in your first payment, $432 if it goes to principal and the $1,000 of it goes to interest right here? Well, what if before you started making mortgage payments, you actually lump sum a chunk of change over to that loan and paid down the principal? In fact, what if you paid a whole whopping $2,615? So that's the amortization that would go towards principal in the first 6 months. You lump summed it to $2,615. You wrote a check and you sent it over to the bank. What would happen? That one payment would eliminate all of this interest. So that one payment of $2,615 just saved you $5,979 in interest. You just jumped ahead of the amortization schedule. Would you invest $2,600 to get back $5,900? Would that be a good investment? Yeah, absolutely. That would be an amazing investment. You'd want to do that over and over and over again. And really, that's what the basis of our system is. Now, we're just not suddenly creating $2,615. Our system looks at money coming in and money going out, and it mathematically finds the fastest way for you to pay off your loans. And then guides you step by step on how to do just that, become debt-free. Our system is designed to combine banking strategies with advanced math and innovative technology in order to ensure every penny that you have either cancels interest or earns interest. Now, in order to use our system, you must have 4 things. You have to have debt. Well, 95% of Americans have debt. That shouldn't be hard, right? You need to have a checking account and a savings account. And of course, you need to have our MoneyMax Account program. Now, some people do choose to use an optional advanced line of credit, such as a home equity line of credit, a personal line of credit, or a business line of credit. And those are great, but they are not required to use our system. So let's look at a few of the money saving strategies that our system is based upon. Now, we're not going to look at all of them. We just don't have that time. But we are going to look at 4 of them. We're going to look at interest accumulation, interest float, interest cancellation, and strategic debt payoff. And in order to illustrate these concepts, we're going to look at one possible scenario. Now, remember, everybody's financial system is different, and we are not creating a cookie cutter approach to everybody. So this is just an example of how this will work. Now, I have to say, though, that this actually was a real couple. This was not by the names of John and Rebecca Jones. Of course, we've changed their names, but years and years and years ago, this was one of the first couples that actually used our system. So $5,000 of income, $4,800 of expenses means that they have about $200 left over each month. Sometimes it's more, sometimes it's less, because quite frankly, life happens. Life happens to us all. So the debt structure, we're going to keep it simple right now. We're going to have just one debt with a balance on it, and we're going to say it's a mortgage. Now this time we're going to have a $200,000 mortgage, 6% interest, over a 30-year term means that the payment is $1,199.10 each month for 30 years of 360 months. Now, if you notice here, we're also going to include a credit card. This is an optional part of our system, and quite frankly, it's not meant for everybody, but let's have a little spoiler alert. If you start with a zero balance on a credit card, you put some of your monthly expenses on it, and then you pay it off in full, how much interest do you pay? Nothing, zero, zip, zilch. The reason why I say, though, that this part is optional is, number one, not everybody has a credit card with a zero balance. And number two, some people, if they started this, they would start spending money you don't have. If that would be you, please do not practice this part. If that's not you, this is a phenomenal use of money, and I'll show you how, and I'll show you why. So we're going to start with month number one to illustrate interest accumulation. So month number one, our $5,000 paycheck comes into our checking account. System says, you know what? Sitting in our checking is not a good use of our money. Let's go ahead and move it over to our savings account where we can at least accrue a little bit of interest. Now, 2% is probably quite generous. We're just trying to illustrate here. But remember, we want to take advantage of all the pennies, nickels, dimes, quarters, dollars. If banks did not, they would lose out on millions, if not billions of dollars. Yet the average American does not take advantage of all the pennies, nickels, dimes, quarters, dollars. This system will help us do so. So we move our money from our checking to our savings. Now we're earning interest. In the meantime, we start with a zero balance credit card, and we put all of our monthly expenses on there. Now you can't put everything on there, but let's just pretend that you can. So you put your mortgage payment, you put your auto loans, you put your groceries, you put every single expense that you have on a monthly basis onto that credit card, and it amounted to that $4,800. Now, again, that also included our mortgage payment. So that mortgage payment of $1,199 went to our mortgage that paid down a whole whopping $199. Woot, woot. So it brings the balance down to $199,801. In the meantime, our system, our money has been sitting in our savings account accruing interest. Now, at only 2% with a $5,000 balance means that we just earned $8 on our money. Again, may not sound like a lot of money, but our goal is to take advantage of either canceling interest or earning interest on every single penny that we have. So that's an example of how we help to accumulate interest. Now, that brings us to month number two. Month number two, our next check of $5,000 comes into our checking account. Now, I had asked before, if you start with a 0% interest rate on a credit card, zero balance on a credit card, doesn't matter what the interest rate is, you put your monthly expenses on it, and then you pay it off in full, what happens? Well, nothing. You've paid zero in interest. So what you've done is you've borrowed money for 30 days at 0% interest, and you've allowed your money to sit in the savings account accruing interest. You just created arbitrage and practiced interest float. So the system knows that that's what you're doing. So it says, you know what, let's go ahead and pay off that credit card in full because, well, that's the best use of money. So it has you move $4,800 from that checking over to that credit card. It pays it off in full, and you've just paid zero interest on that credit card. Now you have $200 in your checking. You've got $5,008 in your savings. System says it's time to start canceling interest. Go ahead and move money. Tells you the exact amount in this situation, $3,789 and likely some change. So you move that money from your savings over to your checking account. Now note, you now have a reserve. You didn't have that before. You started with a zero balance in that credit card or in that savings account. You now have somewhat of a reserve, $1,200 in fact. And you have that $39.89 in your checking. The system says, go ahead and let's start canceling interest. Move that money from your checking over to your mortgage, apply it to that balance, That one payment of $39.89 just eliminated 16 payments and saved you over $18,700 in interest. That's interest cancellation. Did I change your budget? Not at all. Did I change your spending habits? Not at all. In fact, you're going to continue putting all of your monthly expenses onto that credit card, just as you've done before. Nothing's changed. And you'll pay that off in full when the bill comes due. So that was just an example of some of the strategies that this system is based upon. And what happened after you applied that $39.89? Well, if you remember, we started with a loan balance of $199,801. After it brought it down to $195. The results, of course, we've reduced the balance by $39.89. The payments remaining, we had 358 payments remaining, but that one additional application to principal reduced that down to 342 payments. We saved, or we eliminated 16 payments. Instead of paying back $231,000 in interest, we're now only going to pay $212,000, and we just started. These concepts are done over and over and over again. That one transfer, that one funds transfer just wiped out $18,000 in interest. Now, this side-by-side comparison is using the system on an ongoing basis. I just illustrated an example of the first couple months, but these concepts are done over and over and over throughout the course of your loans for your current debt and your future debt. And in this situation, and again, everybody's situation is different. Well, let me ask you, which side would you rather be on? You have a starting balance of $200,000. At the end of year one, conventionally, you'd have $197,000. With our system, it's down to $184,000. Conventionally, it would take you 5.5 years to get to the same position that our MoneyMax account system brought you in the first year. Repayment time of 30 years versus 10.4. Which would you prefer? Would you rather pay back $231,000 or $70,000 in interest? That's what our system did for this couple. Again, this was a real life situation for this couple. This was a real couple. But everybody's situation is different. So in this situation, this couple saved $167,000 in interest. I'm going to say it one more time. I've said it several times. Everybody's situation is different. Mine was 9.1 years. I just helped another couple, went from 30 years down to 17. We're still saving them 13 years of payments. This system is designed to look at your unique situation and help you find the fastest way to pay off your debts, given your unique situation. Now, the fourth strategy that we wanted to talk about was strategic debt payoff. And that comes down to people that have more than one debt. How do you know which debt to target when and with how much? So let's say we have that mortgage still, but now we have a student loan at 10.7 at 7%. We have a furniture loan at 7.125. We have a credit card $8,000 balance at 6.5. We have an auto loan $20,000 balance in 7.25. One guru would say to target this one because it has the lowest balance. The other guru would say, no, target this one because it has the highest interest rate. How do you know what to do? The more debt we have, the more payoff options there are. And the wrong decision costs you time and money. In fact, I was helping a couple probably about 3 weeks ago or so, and she was insistent. He was about to get a bonus, and they had about 13 different credit cards, and she had in her mind 6 specific credit cards that she wanted to pay off when her husband got this bonus. So we ran her analysis with the debt structure as it was, and then we ran the analysis with taking off those 6 credit cards once she applied that bonus. Her decision of targeting those credit cards cost her 1.5 years of payments because she was targeting the wrong debts at the wrong time with the wrong amount of money. So with these 5 different creditors on here, again, how do you know which one to target when with how much? You have to mathematically calculate the interest rates, the balance, how much of your payment goes to principal, how much of it goes to interest. You have to look at your amortization schedule. You have to look at every variable associated with those debts to determine which debt to target when with how much. What's the likelihood you're going to choose the right option every single time? Fair Isaac is the creator of the FICO score, and he reports that the average consumer has 13 active creditors on their report. That means there are over 6 billion different potential combinations to paying off those debts every month. What's the likelihood you're going to choose the right debt with the right amount every single time? Now, it's no surprise that a powerful program like this has been featured in a variety of nationally distributed magazines and on radio shows. But probably the best national recognition we could possibly have gotten is from Ernst & Young. Ernst & Young came knocking on our door back in 2008, and they did some intensive due diligence on us and on our system. If you don't know who Ernst & Young is, they're actually responsible for auditing publicly traded companies and doing what's right for the consumer. In fact, they're in charge of consumer oversight protection. So when they came knocking on our doors, they wanted to investigate our system, and they wanted to ensure our company is doing everything we say we're doing. They went through our financials. They sat down with their executive team. They had their financial planners and accountants scour through our program. And after their extensive due diligence, not only did they find that we're a debt-free company because we practice what we preach, but our executive team is great and our customer service is exceptional. They also found that we are in fact doing what we say we're doing. We're helping people pay off their loans in as little as 1/3 to 1/2 the scheduled time. They were so impressed by us and our system, they awarded the creators the Ernst & Young Entrepreneur of the Year Award 2008 in the Utah Region Financial Services Division. This is a similar award that's been given to names that you'll likely recognize: Apple, Starbucks, eBay, Microsoft, and so many other companies that are nationally recognized. Our system is a financial GPS. And just like a GPS in your car looks at all the potential routes to get where you want to go, our MMA takes every single aspect of your financial situation into account. You simply tell it how much you owe, how long, what your interest rates are, incomes, how much, how often, commission-based, whatever it may be, what's coming up down the road, maybe vacations, holiday spending, tax returns, and even when the unexpected expenses happen, such as medical bills, broken appliances, home repairs, you simply tell the system, and it will instantaneously recalculate to find the next fastest way to reach your destination. It is a GPS for your finances. And just like your GPS in your car guides you to make all your turns, the MMA guides you to pay off all of your debt. The GPS in your car takes away the stress of deciding which route to take when obstacle comes up. Our system takes away the stress when complicated financial decisions come up. GPS in your car helps you stay focused on the road. The MMA helps you stay focused on your financial plan. GPS helps track your success as you follow the route. Well, guess what? Our system tracks your success as you follow the program. The GPS gives you the exact time you will arrive at your destination. Our system's going to give you the month and year that you will be debt-free. And in fact, when you're in the system, it gives you the exact date. My debt freedom date, May 19th, 2023. And my life has changed since I began on the system. I've purchased 28 doors for real estate investing. My husband's retired. I had a kid. I got to add a whole bunch of student loans, our auto loan, our boat loan. Geez. And yet, throughout all of the changes and all the goals and all the directions that we've adjusted in our life, our system's still set for us to be debt-free May 19th, 2023. And the best news, you can update the system in as little as 20 minutes per month. Well, the reality is the results speak for themselves. To date, we've helped accelerate the paydown of over $2.1 at this point $billion in principle. And the reality is also, it's a fact, achieving your financial goals begins with debt elimination. In fact, Nelson Nash, author of Becoming Your Own Banker, The Infinite Banking Concept, says that for the average person, 39 cents of every dollar earned goes simply to pay interest on debt. Getting rid of that debt is as though the average person had a 39% raise. No more additional hours worked, no more additional jobs done or anything of that nature. Just simply getting a 39% raise. That was just the interest, by the way. 39% raise just because you paid off your debt. Now, I bet you're wondering, is this going to work for me? Well, the reality is I have no idea. So your next step, get back with the person that invited you to this discovery call and ask them to run your free savings report. They're going to do a side-by-side comparison of what you're currently doing versus what the system can do for you, so that you can make an educated decision about whether or not our system is right for you. This analysis is free. So get back with that person that invited you to this call. If you were invited via email, via social media, via person, whatever it may be, please get back with that person that invited you. So that concludes our presentation for tonight. I'm going to leave you with this thought. The only difference between where you are and where you want to be are the steps you haven't taken. Thank you for attending. And remember, take action. Have a great day.